An entitled Karen wants me to let ponies trample her daughter and complains when I suggest maybe that's not such a hot idea. I teach horse riding to kids and adults, starting at age 3. That's when insurance will cover them. And it's fun to see little kids experiencing ponies for the first time. My boss gives me a heads up that the client coming in is 5 years old and has ridden ponies, about 10 hands high, for a while, with an experienced horse person helping. But they have an issue, as the kid is now terrified of ponies in general. So I meet the very polite kid and send her to play with the rocking horses in the waiting room while I find out from mom what the deal is. She tells me the kid has been stepped on, bitten, fallen off multiple times, the pony has bucked and bolted, basically you name it, and this kid has experienced it. I tell the mother I would give her 6 lessons to attempt to get the child comfortable around horses. But I did not guarantee I could get her on board. I had serious doubts, even though at this point in my career of 10 plus years, I've never had a kid I couldn't get on board. We start the session, and the mother straight away looks disgusted. Keep in mind, she watched her daughter be injured by the experienced horse friend's lack of knowledge for a year and did nothing. I start the session with the rocking horses. There was no way I was taking this kid to the real thing before giving her some power back and building some trust. We talk about approaching a pony, where they like scratches, where they don't like you to be, or where they don't like you to touch. We talked about safe zones and all that stuff. Took about 15 minutes of an hour session. Mother looks frustrated, but I ignore her. We move out to the real pony, who's 85 centimeters and a cute little fluff ball. She's also older than 30 years, so basically a quiet grandma who's always half asleep. The kid freezes, so I sit her on a seat outside the yard and I go in. I move all around the pony and gently pat her all over to show she isn't going to move or twitch. I then sit next to the pony's head and start putting scrunchies in her mane and asking the kid to pick them out for me. It took until the last 10 minutes for the kid to pat the pony. We went on with slow progress like that for another 2 lessons, and had gotten to the point that the pony was wearing a saddle and the child could stand on a mounting block beside her without freaking out. Cue the stupid mother. Just pick her up already. We've been here for 3 lessons and she still isn't on board. I said no. When she's ready, I'll ask her if she wants help to get on, but I will not force her. That's what got you into this mess in the first place. I didn't have anything to do with her getting scared. Who lifted her on board every single time? Because I know she has never mounted a horse herself with her foot in the stirrup, pushing herself up and over. No one ever asked her if she wanted to get on. You just lifted her onto the horse. But that's what everyone does. And kids don't know what they want anyway. You have to force them to try things. No, you don't. And I refuse to traumatize this child more than she already is. I will never pick her up and put her on, but I will help her do it herself if she wants to. Your child does not trust you, the pony, or me, or any adult for that matter, because of what's happened. We are trying to build that trust slowly and make her tolerate ponies again. It's not a quick fix, and what's happened to her would have broken many adult riders. She's 5. Now this argument is happening in front of the kid, who was actually having a great session, and who I thought had made a huge breakthrough. She started to shrink back, so I squatted down and told her, if you don't want to ride, no one will force you here. This is all about you, not mom. After another full session of me standing my ground and not letting the mother bully the situation, I had to tell her a few times to stay quiet and not comment. I am proud to say the child did get on board, and we worked for an hour just getting on and off. My back was killing me, because during dismount I bear hug them from behind and swing their leg over and off. But we did it. In 6 months, that little girl was riding my 10 hands high Shetland on lead in the arena and loving it again. Unfortunately, COVID hit, and lessons stopped for kids under 8 until the following spring. I hope that little girl didn't go ride somewhere else and get scared again, but it's been years now and I don't know. This is such an unusually wholesome story for Reddit, even if the ending is a little uncertain. It's definitely terrifying to know that this mother cares so much more about her daughter riding a pony than she does about the fact that multiple ponies have tried to trample her and eat her alive. I guess your child's safety just isn't as important as taking a few cute horse riding pics to show off at your next PTA meeting. But everyone who's ridden horses knows that one of the key tips to get a horse to trust you is to trust them back. Thanks to this OP, that little girl is going to be 10 times safer around the next horse she rides than she would have been if her mule of a mother had kept throwing her on the saddle without taking the time to teach her anything. Really, the upsetting part is that mom never seems like she learned her lesson. If she really thinks children need to be forced into everything they do, this kid is going to need a lot of people like the OP to step in and come to her defense. But even if they keep her physically safe the next time her idiot mother decides her daughter needs to go skydiving or wrestle gators or whatever else, when is this poor girl going to get to go after the hobbies she actually wants to try? I'm assuming there's no dad to step in and help. What man could physically survive being married to this woman for 5 whole years? A heartless woman uses her ex-husband's illness to try and steal sole custody of their teenage daughter. I divorced my 13-year-old daughter Leah's dad 3 years ago. We used to share custody of her, but now that her dad recently got diagnosed with a terminal illness, things are a bit of a mess. He and his family have been busy with his illness, and since Leah hasn't gone to stay with him for 2 weeks now, he and his sister visited days ago. He and Leah saw each other, and he requested a private minute with her in her room. I gave them all the privacy they needed, but as soon as I heard commotion, I decided to enter the room. I walked in on them hugging, and both him and Leah were crying. I freaked out because I didn't know why she was crying, but she refused to answer when I asked. She left the room, and I immediately asked her dad what happened. He told me that he just told her about his diagnosis. I was in shock. I asked if he seriously did that, and he looked at me confused. I told him he shouldn't have done that without telling me. He looked even more confused and said that Leah needed to know because he needs her as part of his support to recover. He said that he didn't get how and why he was supposed to wait for or consult me. I got mad and told him this wasn't okay, but he lashed back at me saying he didn't need my permission to tell her since he's her father and since it doesn't concern me. But I disagreed harshly. I told him he made a huge mistake because of how this can and will affect her mental and emotional health. He responded by saying that I was unreasonable to expect him to hide his diagnosis from her and act like he's okay when he's not. He called me selfish because I know how his health will impact his time with her, and he doesn't want her to think he's neglecting her when he's going through rough times. I told him she wouldn't notice, especially since I suggested having her come live with me while he gets treatment, which is what we're doing as of now. He didn't like what I said and tried to walk out, but I told him that we weren't done. His sister came in and started arguing with me, then told him to get ready to leave. She chewed me out for about 5 minutes about how I should stop having expectations of her brother and acting like I have authority or legal connections to him. Then I had her leave because I couldn't take it anymore. We haven't talked since then because his sister has been all over me about it. Lady, if you've got any world's best mom mugs lying around, you might want to go pack them up and put them in storage. You're worried that knowing about her father's illness might affect your daughter's emotional health? No kidding. You know what else would affect your daughter's emotional health? Losing her father after months or years of not seeing him because you decided a teenager wasn't old enough to handle saying goodbye. Now, the commenters have speculated that this OP might be trying to use an unfortunate situation to basically steal sole custody of the daughter. But even if that's not the case, her actions are indefensible. Plenty of parents do reckless or even stupid things because they think it's what's best for their kids. And there's really no set manual for these types of situations. When trying to protect a child's emotions, you can and will mess up at some point. Bad parenting isn't defined by the actions you take. It's defined by the reasons that you take them. But even if I assume this OP is legitimately concerned for her daughter, which is questionable at best, you can't possibly think that watching you fight with the man she's losing is going to help the situation any. If you really care about your daughter, you need to be showing her support right now, not forcing her to choose sides between the mother who raises her and the father she's grieving. The fact that this isn't obvious to you makes my blood boil, no matter how hard I try to see things from your side. I can't even deal with you anymore. Let's move on to a post by someone with half a functioning head on their shoulders. My Karen of a sister wouldn't return my house key, so I ruined her son's baptism. Now she's threatening to break into my house. I come from a very rough household. I tried to make things work for years with my family, but ended up dropping contact a few years ago. There was never any compromise, and my physical and mental health were rock bottom, with them being the source of almost all my stress. They're hateful, prejudiced, narcissistic, entitled Karens of people, my sister being the worst. I was the family workhorse for car repairs, lawn maintenance, house maintenance, laundry, cooking, cleaning, you name it. I was told to do it and scolded if I had anything else I wanted to do. They would berate me any chance they get, and continue to do so now. I know now this all comes from a place of deep trauma and damage, but I don't think that excuses them for their actions as fully matured adults who have made their own decisions in life. My sister was the golden child of the family. She would get away with everything, and I had all of the responsibility. She then grew up to be a near carbon copy of our parents. I won't go too far into specifics, but finally, one day, I had enough of it all, and cut communication, aside from one family member who could get us in contact for an absolute emergency in which I was legally required to be involved out of courtesy. When I cut contact, I asked for the keys to my house back for my sister, to which she refused and said, "Come get them yourself then." Whenever I would try, it would turn into gaslighting and a screaming match, and I wouldn't get them back. I ended up giving up and changing all the locks. A month ago, my sister contacts me through that family member. She had a baby and has found a new interest in Jesus and would like her son baptized. Cue the pettiest, but honestly most satisfying revenge I could have ever had. She asks for her baptism records from me, as our mother had sent them to me years earlier for safekeeping. I honestly had not seen the papers in years, so when she asked, I honestly said, I haven't seen it in years, but I can look. If you mail me back my keys, I'll consider looking. This girl blew up like you could not imagine, losing her mind, saying I'm holding her records hostage and how much of an insert derogatory name I am, but at no point accepts just mailing the keys. Tells me how I am now stopping her son from being baptized. I just replied, that all sounds like a you problem. Contact the parish who did the baptism and get a new one then. The last thing she wrote to me was, go F yourself. It's been nearly a month since then. I still don't have the keys and I don't care. I found the record a week ago while cleaning out old boxes and genuinely am thinking of just tossing it. But the smile on my face thinking about how unbelievably angry that Karen of a sister I have must be, I may hold on to it just a little bit longer. As if that weren't enough family drama, the OP later posted an update with further clarification. I never told her I changed my locks. I forgot to mention when I told her to mail my keys, she insisted she drop them off in person. I told her that I did not want her here, so she said she was coming whether I liked it or not. She isn't past breaking into my place, and her husband is a local police officer. So I said, try and come and I'll have you arrested for trespassing. I don't care if your husband's a cop. They are a real Blue Lives Matter couple, with live, laugh, love art on the wall. There were some great suggestions in the comments about how to handle this entitled sister. One person suggested the OP lock the records behind a door that can only be opened with the OP's old housekey. Another suggested simply mailing his sister the paperwork after the baptism. Sometimes pettiness is a genius art form. But is it actually petty? From the way it sounds, they grew up in a pretty chaotic home. In situations like that, you'd hope a brother and sister would look out for each other, instead of pitting themselves against each other and adding to the drama. It's a shame this OP wasn't given a sister like that. So were they justified, or could they have handled the situation another way? What would you have done if you had this sister? Let us know in the comments. I couldn't get rid of my nosy mother-in-law, so I scared her away with a giant rubber pleasure snake. So this happened when I was unhappily married to my ex-husband. We were recently married and bought a house about a 20-minute walk from his parents. I'm very close with my family, and this put me over an hour away from them by bus, and an hour's bus away from work. My ex drove, and his job was 20 minutes away by car. He wanted to live near his family and work because of petrol costs, and because, as I now know, he is an insufferable mummy's boy. While we were living together, his mom still washed all his clothes, because I once failed to get biro out of one of his work shirts. His mom still made him a packed lunch. He was 25 when we bought our house, 27 when I divorced him. The issue? His mom had a housekey in case of emergencies, and had a habit of letting herself in to clean while we were at work. My house was never dirty, and I took offense that she would enter our house while we were away to clean it. I also hated the thought of someone being in my home while I was not. I eventually told my ex to make her stop. This was after we had been on holiday, and I returned to find air fresheners in every room of the house, like it stank previously. My ex refused to talk to his mother, because why would he? It's around this time I noticed our bedroom is also being cleaned, bed being made, sheets changed, my bedside table straightened up, my underwear drawer had also been refolded. Furious, I ask my ex again to make this stop. It's an invasion of privacy. Again, he says she's just helping out, so he declines to speak with her. Upset and angry, I call my mom. We talk and meet up in town the following day. We proceed to go to an adult store and buy the biggest toy skin pickle we can find. I return home and place it in my drawer. When I leave for work the following day, I place said pleasure pole on our unmade bed. I got a phone call from my ex asking me if I'd lost my mind. I pointed out that if he'd spoken to his mom, she wouldn't have seen it. He was mad at me for ages, but his mom never went in our room again. Some users were curious about why the OP finally decided to leave her husband. In an update, she explained there were a number of reasons, but one in particular stands out. It had to be the shower incident. I don't know how, but he managed to flood the bathroom. The only thing I can think of is that he didn't pull the shower curtain shut or decided, "Hey, today I'm going to shower on the floor." I was in the kitchen having breakfast, and water started coming through the ceiling and through the light. I ran upstairs and told him to shut the water off. He insisted on finishing his shower first. I called my dad, who's an electrician, and he said to get the lovely plumber next door to look at it, and he would come around to check the wiring after. But for now, to turn everything off. My ex got his dad to look at it, who is not a tradesman of any kind. He said it was fine, so my ex deemed it fine. I got next door guy over anyway because he was a plumber, and I didn't want to invalidate my building insurance by not getting something like that looked at. There was still water in my light fixture. My ex told his dad. The next time we went to his parents, his dad came right at me, inches from my face, with me backed into the closed front door, shouting how he was never going to do anything for me ever again because I was an ungrateful B-word. My ex did nothing. I walked home in tears, and he did not follow. I found out from his sister, who stuck up for me and yelled at her dad, that he hadn't said a word in my defense. I knew then nothing was going to change, and it was getting worse. I refused to let myself feel unsafe, so I packed my stuff and left. Goodness gracious, OP did the right thing by leaving. It's nuts to think that she couldn't clean well enough to make the mother happy, while the father was content to leave the house in disrepair. And snooping through your laundry, even if the house had been filthy, that particular privacy violation goes way too far. No woman needs a man to fight her battles for her, but she deserves a man who will at least stand next to her so she isn't fighting alone. And it sounds like OP's little revenge tactic left her with a toy that could satisfy her, since her hubby sure doesn't seem to have cared about her happiness at all. What do you think though? Would you leave a spouse to get away from their parents? Is being a spineless mummy's boy enough reason to lose your entire marriage? It sure sounds like it in this case, but let us know what you think. Click one of the videos on screen right now.